Today I am in so much pain, and no one can help me solve it. I just can't take it anymore. Today I am all alone. I've been suffering for a while. Keep going on for my friends' minds. I can't stand to be left behind. I can't bear to go on. We all pass on eventually. They'll just have to move on. Soon I'll be in the sanctuary. Life isn't worth the pain I know. I just wish there was a cure. My meditation surviving solution. So now it's time for solution. So please don't miss me when I'm gone. It had nothing to do with you. You didn't do anything wrong. This is what I gotta do. Today I am in too much pain, and no one can help me solve it. I just can't take it anymore. Today I am all alone. I just have nothing to live for. Life isn't worth the pain I know. I just wish there was a cure. I just can't toss it home.
Showtime! Showtime!
What's going on?
4, 3, 2, 1!
mess up here. Is this still working? All right. I'm not ignoring the cameras. I'm just waiting to sit down because I want you to see my face and my body language because I'm about to talk serious about some things because I have to or I'll just not feel good. Not that I really was planning on feeling good. Usually not on the agenda. I'm not drunk right now, but I kind of feel like getting drunk. I'll be lucky if I can. I'll probably get buzzed. We'll see. No interruptions, please. Hey, sorry. Guess I don't need this. All right. Good level. You can see my whole body. Sorry about the microphone. Sorry that it has to cover up any portion of my body whatsoever. Here, let's, you know what, I already have the audio calibrated, and I watched the test video, and I know that it sounds pretty decent. I don't have any, like, noise removal, or I had no adjustments whatsoever, because I don't want any adjustments. None of my typical video magic skills will be required for this video. This is not streaming. I would like to do a streaming video, but it rained today, and I've already had 2 blackouts. My iMac has been sitting like, let's see, let's get a good look. It's been like that with the bar. This is like my new $95 iMac. Why do I tell you the price? Just say you don't think I'm privileged. Because, you know, a lot of times Apple people, they have to pay a lot of money to be Apple people. And, you know, it's alright. Because, like, how great I screwed up this shot. It's okay, it's okay. Goddamn. And a lot of times I can't think when I'm doing this. Son of a bitch. Dude, Tony, we don't need that influence right now. This is between you and me. What did I do wrong? Alright, I know what to do. This is weird. I didn't want to be back to back. But I guess that's what we gotta do. Now. Yeah, we don't need that either. This isn't about Mountain Dew. And it's not about how my Borg and my robot are turned away from me right now because they don't want to look at me. Because they don't know what to think of me. God only knows who does, right? I certainly know that my providers don't know what to think of me. If they even, like, know I exist. Their little algorithm is probably just saying some user did something, because if they acknowledged me for me and put everything into context, I probably wouldn't have a community strike against me right now, and I probably wouldn't be on this 90-day probation thing. That is, I don't know. I haven't been online to check. For all I know, my channel might be deleted. I might be kicked off there. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. I'm not going to check because I don't need anything else to stress me out. I was supposed to be... Is that a good shot? You know, do you want it? You know what? I don't care. I'm trying. And you know, whatever I provide, it's probably going to be twisted into something that it's not. Because I provide hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of content when I create content. And there's no way, even my bestest, most dedicated fans, there's no way anybody sees all of it. I do, most of the time, because I'm checking for, like, entertainment. I kind of like, the shit that I do in front of the camera. It's like, I never have any trouble understanding my meaning when I'm being clever. So what's this all about? Yeah, my gecko had a vet appointment at 3:30. It's now almost 4:30. I had to reschedule for tomorrow. It was snowing in the road earlier. And I just didn't want to drive. I was already I woke up at 5 this morning. I was already feeling kind of tired. Like I was working on the Mac when the power went out. And I was thinking, hey, I might fall asleep on the drive to the doctor's appointment. Because I was just feeling that way. It was probably just a side effect of medication. But... aside from that, yeah, it started to rain, it started to snow, and I said, I'm not going to risk my gecko's life, and I'm not going to risk my life driving to the appointment when the road is slick. I am tired, and I'm just going to stay here. I was starting to get pretty upset because my air conditioner, the thing that I rely on for so much, it gets pretty hot. Alright? And it started to make a terrible noise. It started to go like there was something inside of it that was rattling and hitting the fan blades inside of it. and I was like, this is just great. So I've had it turned off for a good long time, and it feels very nice to have it back on. Um, you know, aside from that, well, I already screwed up the camera once. Yeah, aside from that, that's what the room looks like. Oh, yeah, there we go. Basically, my nice pathway that led all the way to the wall, it's gone now. Why is that? Oh, thanks for asking. I'm glad you care. It's because of the rain. I was working on that thing in the middle of the room, trying to repair a broken motor. I believe. I don't know. I don't really believe anything. I'm just taking a wild guess, stab in the dark. That it has something to do with this part. It's a SH cap, 250 volt, 15, and then there's a U. I forget what that stands for. And a big F, 250 volt, 50, 60 hertz. We're all familiar with those numbers because of our monitors and the flicker frequency. Like, I usually try and go with the 60 frames or 30 frames per second because of the 60 hertz that I have the displays running at usually. You know, I just don't know though. This part's from 1997. It makes sense. It looks like the kind of thing that would break. The kind of thing I can't rely on. But it's really just a guess. It's a guess. And what about it? I really liked having that filter running for a little while. It got the air very clean very quickly. And, you know, I have asthma and I don't like dirty air, dusty air, etc. So yeah, it's been a disappointing day. It's whatever. I feel most disappointed that I didn't get to take my pet to the doctor. It'll be fine. We're going tomorrow. So that's not a good shot. Let's scoot this over. That's better, right? So what do I have to say? I don't know. Aside from bitching about the fucking rain. Yesterday, I was disappointed. Yeah, that sounds really enlightening. Like, that's different from any other day. Here, let me put it this way. I posted screenshots of a thing that happened in an effort to be transparent, because if I didn't post those screenshots, you know, I figured what I posted was gonna go away. I don't know if it's still up there or not. I assume they took it down because it violated their community guidelines. Yes, YouTube says that they need to protect the community from me because I'm a predator. What did I do? I used a word that wasn't directed at anyone in particular. And I mean, that's why I'm saying I shared that on my Twitter. I'm expecting that to still be there on x.com. Because, you know, if you're not transparent these days, how can people possibly figure out what happened, right? It's kind of like when Edward Snowden and Julian Assange forced these very powerful outfits, organizations, governments, when they basically, WikiLeaks has leaked a lot of other stuff than just, they've had like leaked like corporate stuff, government stuff. I think even powerful individuals have had their stuff doxxed on there. So it's like before that, transparency wasn't an issue at all. No. It's kind of a new development. I never expected that. Like, I guess the Freedom of Information Act, the FOIA. I'm trying to remember what year that happened. But before that, I don't know, getting information was a little trickier. Like, I think people could still request their FBI file. I know that because my old man, my father, he had. Actually, I think my mother probably made the request on his behalf. Just to make sure that he wasn't in a bad status in their department. Because my uncle, my good old uncle, my old man's little brother, had a tendency to use my father's name and identity when he was out in public and out in society. Isn't that great? Having a little brother that does that to you. And yeah, he was usually using his identity when he was out getting into trouble. That's neat, right? Sheesh. My uncle was kind of a piece of work, you could say. It was difficult to hate the guy because he had figured out how to be charming. You know what I mean? Like whenever I'd see him, he'd be like, "Hey, big guy, how's it going? What you been up to, mijo? Oh, that's good to hear. Hey, can I get you a soda? You want to go to the store? I'll drive you in my Buick," or whatever he was driving. He basically seemed like a real welcoming person until he stole your identity. That kind of shit. So, I love my uncle. Even though he's a creep and a cretin and a sleazebag, or at least he was when he was alive. He left us a long time ago. It was like in the 20-aughts, I think. And then Grandma Maggie died after that too. His mother. And so what? What I'm trying to say is my father, he basically thought what I just said, that his little brother was kind of a sleazebag, kind of a scumbag, kind of a scuzz bucket, kind of like not trustworthy? Yeah, pretty much. But of course, the whole family, blood is thicker than, I don't need this. What am I doing? The whole family, blood is thicker than water thing, just made my stupid father forgive my uncle over and over, time and time again, when he really shouldn't have. When somebody does you dirty like that, I don't care if it's like blood relative, a total stranger, a best friend, a spouse, or significant other. Hell, man, I don't even care if it's your dog. Maybe you trained your dog to go into your pants and take your wallet out and get your ID card in case of emergency, and now your dog's out there pretending to be you. I don't give a fuck who it is. If anybody ever did that to me, I'd write them off and say, I'm not only am I never talking to you again, if you so much as come near me, I'm going to prepare to defend myself. Because that may not be a violent act. The act of pretending to, assuming your identity out in public while you're causing trouble. You know, I don't remember the last time. I think that was back in the 90s. The very, 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 very last time my uncle did that. But the thing is that doesn't matter, because if he got busted under my old man's name, you know, it'll last a lot longer than just the 90s. You know, if it's in a filing cabinet, you know, or if it gets uploaded into a database. Get the picture? That's how annoying that is. And so what? Well, my father, although he still continued to work with my uncle. By the way, I'm named after both of these guys. So, you could say they're my role models, but they're not. I know who my role models are. It's kind of like people like Lou Perfidio. People like, well, I already mentioned Amadeus Mozart. Judd, my father, turned me on to that Steve Guttenberg movie when I was very little. We had it on videotape, so I think it was a duplicated videotape from the video store. It was a backup copy. I don't know how you feel about that. I know these days that type of thing is very frowned upon. Even if it's like, what, an old movie release. As far as I know, that makes you a pirate. Doesn't it? Doesn't it? You know, I used to think that I don't know, man. I've had to think a lot of things in my life. But that term pirate, it's had transitional meaning over the years. You know, it's like there's so many. Like, have you ever heard about the organized and no, I'm not trying. Let me guess. You probably want me to get to the point, and you think I'm just being roundabout just to mislead you? Well, gee, how does it feel to be misled? Tell me all about it. I'd love to hear about your stories of being misled through life. And if you think I'm misleading you right now, this second, you've never been misled, have you? So, I'm not gonna mislead anyone, especially in a video. And if you think I'm trying to avoid accountability, oh, I'll take it right now. Blame everything on me. It makes me feel very adult. It's a very rare opportunity to feel very, very, very adult in this, you know, this low status and low stature life I live. So yeah, any chance to feel adult is pretty groovy. Just blame everything on me. Blame the war on me. Why don't you blame prejudice in general on me? Because I have so much power and I'm holding everybody down, right? Yes, I should be hiring people, but I'm not hiring people because of their whatever. Yeah, right. I'm not hiring people because I can't afford to even produce products. I'm in the business of digital goods. You know, MP3s. That's what I've been, like, hosting on. Bandcamp has been hosting MP3s. Did you like the hand motion? It's like I was reaching for the cloud. Isn't that cute? That was a totally subconscious move. That's why I want you to be able to see my body language. Because, like, how else are you supposed to believe me or read me or anything? Because you can't fake that kind of thing. You know, God, I hate when my nose itches. I'm gonna take an antihistamine because I know if I've read a thing or two. I think Wired magazine had a thing a while back about how the FBI or how the CIA interprets body gestures or something. And I think I read somewhere that a person that scratches their nose a lot is suspicious or something like that. And quite frankly, I just have allergies. I need to take an antihistamine before I start to look too suspicious. You know, there's nothing more dangerous, right, than a person with a little bit of information. It's like, you know, a body language expert probably has years of training, right? Yeah, man, they're antihistamines. What do you think I'm fronting? Sorry, it's out of focus. You ever had them? Hydroxyzines? They're for people with anxiety. Dry pill swallower, yeah, that's me. You gotta take pills. You tend not to worry too much about taking them exactly as the label recommends. But I like them better. Yeah, I know. Roundabout as fuck. You know, if I'm focusing on something, I kind of gotta see it through from start to finish, or it'll just fucking drive me crazy. So I like them because they're antihistamines and they won't kill me. A lot of anti-anxiety medication will kill a person. Benzodiazepines. I was gonna name some famous people, but I don't even want to. It's sad. It's such an easy death to avoid. I've never been impressed by benzodiazepines. And I have no problem whatsoever avoiding them like the plague. That would be an embarrassing way to die. After I've survived what I've survived, and if you don't know what I've survived, well, I guess you'll have to find out later, because I don't want to talk about that today. But yeah, to survive what I've survived, and then get killed by a little pill, that would suck. You know how it kills you, right? You stop breathing. Your respiratory system slows down, it lowers until your breathing becomes so shallow, you basically stop. And then your heart stops, and then you're dead. And then you're another victim of a drug overdose. It is sad. Where's my damn lighter? What this? Yeah, cancer's pretty sad too. That's kind of a more long drawn out sadness. That benzodiazepine one, that's a sadness that's pretty much happens overnight. Yeah. What are we talking about? Was it misled? Were we on the topic of being misled? You ever see that skateboard video, Misled Youth, by Zero Skateboards? I'd recommend it. And yes, they were misled youth. We all were. I think we probably still are. Misled by who? I don't know, man. Probably any authority figure that a kid has. Because nobody's perfect. No authority figure is perfect. And therefore, if somebody's in charge of you, because until you're 18, you're a minor and you have a guardian, therefore, we all get misled from time to time. And you either let yourself be misled or you try not to be because it doesn't feel right. I hope you do. Being misled sucks because it's basically a betrayal of trust. It's like when you're a minor and you have a guardian or a parent, whatever you. Let's just say guardian because that's what parents are. They're there to protect you and make sure that nothing like kills you, kidnaps you, to make sure you don't hurt yourself by making bad decisions that could affect you the rest of your life, to protect you from you accidentally killing yourself, whether it's on a bicycle when you ride it in front of a car, or whether it's like whatever, man. I don't really want to do what I normally do. I like to throw a lot of scenarios out when I have ideas. I like to throw a lot of synonymous words out when I say something like important, because I know how one-dimensional this world can be. I was about ready to use a curse word, but that's only gonna like enable me. It'll enable that mode where I get super pissed off and just start ranting about shit. And I'm trying to avoid that. Today was a bad day, and I could easily get into a bad mood. But, like, actually, today is perfect. Because all of these factors that have, like, ruined the day have led up to this moment. And this is something that I need to do. Because this isn't my first time getting in trouble on the internet, you know? Ever since I've tried to be more like, let's just say it, okay? Ever since I've tried to be an internet celebrity type person. I know that's a funny thing to say. My analytics. Hello? I am recording. Was there something you needed? Oh, I was gonna put one on the back window. I just like... 'cause it's falling off. It's falling off. Okay then. Thanks for reminding me. Should probably turn this off. I'm not going to. I have people that depend on me, and it would be very inconsiderate to do that. Right, internet celebrity. You know, it's basically what I'm trying to be. Because, like, I like to think that I'm important. There's a term that gets used and thrown around. It's a prefix that gets used on a lot of different things. Like musically speaking, or like, let's just stick with the music one. Like I just said, I tend to like to throw a lot of scenarios and synonymous words out, but that can, because I want to be understood, but it can be distracting to both you and me. I mean, wouldn't you say so? Alright then. We'll stick with the music analogy or demonstration. This is more of a demonstration of the word proto. I don't know how familiar this particular viewer, you, I don't know how familiar you are as an individual, because I might be speaking right now to any number of people. That is the nature of this kind of one-way communication. That's what I grew up with. That's like the formula that I know, that I expect, and that I'm comfortable with. The one direction. I'm really bad at the interactive, like taking phone calls. That was okay because it's a one-on-one conversation. But trying to have a conversation in a chat room or something like that, trying to remain engaged and acknowledge every reply or question, like to actually stay on top of those things, I find to be very difficult. It's not my special. I'm not really a chat room person anyways. I tried to get into IRC growing up, and it was an interesting protocol. I tried the famous ones at the time, which were FNet, DOLNet, and I think there was a third variety, but I didn't spend any time on that one. And didn't spend much time on DOLNet either. I really liked Freenode. I don't know what network. I think that's its own network. I don't think it's anything other than Freenode. It might be considered FNet though. I don't know. Because like, for whatever reason, I never bothered to find out. For whatever reason, I guess EFNet, is kind of like the dominant protocol. Although these days there's many different types of IRC servers. You could connect to a 2600, the magazine. They have a IRC network. You could connect to QuakeNet, which is for fans of the video game Quake, and it is not FNet, DOLNet, or anything other than QuakeNet. And so forth and so forth. But the one-on-one conversation that I used to have with phone callers. Did you notice that? I even said it. Oh, dude. That's so, like, ingrained into me. Phone caller. Wow. That was funny. I was kind of trying to say it like a normal person, too. Let's see if I can. The kind of conversation that I would have with a phone caller. It's weird. Let's just say with a viewer. When I'd have a phone call with a viewer, it was a conversation back and forth with one person, and that was easy. Just like I'm having a conversation with you right now. And so I don't know how familiar you are with punk rock music, but I think the best example of the word proto, or the prefix proto, pertains to punk rock music and exactly what it is and what it means, okay? Punk rock, most people consider it to have started in 1977. In the year 1977, Star Wars A New Hope was released in theaters, I believe. And I wasn't alive yet, but let's continue. Is there anything else I can think of other than that? Punk rock and Star Wars, they were both invented in 1977 for the most part. And it's arguable, just like anything, right? Some people will tell you that punk rock started in 1974 when the Ramones released their self titled album with the black and white cover, black and white photo. You know, it's pretty iconic. The four of them, Tommy and Dee Dee and Johnny and Joey, standing in front of like a brick wall or something, like wearing like blue jeans, kind of like with the ripped up knees and junk. Maybe leather jackets, maybe just t-shirts, with their unforgettable, unmistakable bowl cut esque hairdos. Dee Dee, the bass player and majority songwriter, had the most bowl cut hairdo of them all. Probably with Johnny Ramone coming in second place with the second most bowl cut haircut, but his was a little longer. Tommy, the drummer, his hairdo was a little bit more like a mullet, but he had like that wavy kind of hair. So he was also he's a famous producer. I guess they're all dead now. I used to think about that when I was a kid back in the 90s. I'd think to myself, I hate to think that someday I'll live in a world without the Ramones. And I mean, like, I knew they'd die someday. Rest in peace, guys. Gabba gabba, we accept you. um, I never watched that. That movie Freaks. I mean, I've seen it, but like, I don't own it. I've never owned it. And I don't think I've seen it from start to finish. I don't think I have. If I did, I don't remember it from start to finish. I don't know, like, what's to remember, right? You've got like a community of sideshow freaks. That's the storyline. I'm not being mean. That's like the name of the movie, and that's what they are. And I think that like they were treated as such, like a freak show. And of course, the Ramones, that was kind of like back when they were alive. That was kind of their shtick. That was their gimmick. It was kind of the appeal of what they offered and provided. Was that they could be weird and make you feel at home if you were weird. I really like that band. If I think about it really hard, how dead they are, I think I could easily cry about it. I'm trying not to. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. It's not why we're here today. I could be streaming right now. Let's move this along, please. Alright, JJ, we'll move this along. $1977 or 74, roughly. Somewhere in that time period, punk rock was invented. And in 77, let's just agree that it got popular. It became trendy. We can at least agree on that. And then, of course, years down the line, Like in the mid 80s, everything turned hardcore. In the 90s, it all turned pop punk. In the 2000 aughts, it all went emo. Anyway, but before all that, a lot of the punk rockers had to pay homage. They didn't have to, they chose to. Yeah, they had to pay homage to the influences. Who were the influences? I told you guys I was tired, and there's no reason why I wouldn't be. I should probably take a stinking caffeine pill. Do you know what direction I'm going with this? I'll bet if you're an experienced punk rock music listener, you know I'm going to talk about the Velvet Underground, Iggy Pop, and the New York Dolls. Like, do those guys that I just mentioned, those acts, those projects, those bands, or whatever, did that, like, what do you think? Are they punk rock or not? Looks like that IMAX never gonna fix itself. It's just sitting there, and I don't know what it's doing anymore at this point. Oh shit. I'm sorry. I think I was just dreaming I was Iggy Pop. No, I'm just kidding. That guy's pretty cool, huh? So what makes those bands proto? Well, they're not quite punk rock. We all agreed that that trend and everything like started in 1977, and like, it was basically Sex Pistols, the Ramones, Dead Boys, Blondie, like I hesitated for a moment to say Blondie because, like, that was kind of like a new wave act. Debbie Harry and her band, you know? But, like, let's face it, when they were playing at CBGB's before they got big, they were totally punk rock. That's just the truth. The Clash, they were a very famous punk rock act at the time. Um, I suppose if you keep trying to mention punk rock bands that were there when it started, the list is going to get obscure fairly quickly. Like when I say The Damned, I bet you don't know who they are, huh? Do you? That's cool. Good for you. Or whatever. But, we can just, The Exploited. You ever listen to those guys? Yeah, yeah. Okay. The big mohawk guy, yeah. Punk's Not Dead. Yeah, that came along a few years after their first release. I think Army Life was a pretty big hit for them, like at first. But no, the proto punk rock guys, they were they were like they were hard edge. Their attitude was punk rock. Like the way they played, their stage presence, what they chose to write their song lyrics about. Um, you know, um, when those punk rock acts were first starting, not the proto, but the punk rock acts were starting. They did a lot of 3-chord songs. Hell, man, the Ramones have many. Um, like Blitzkrieg Bop is a 3-chord song. Dun 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 dun. And then the next part where it changes, all it does is it starts on the note underneath on the next string. So it's like it goes na 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 do 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 do. So technically that's the fourth chord if you want to think of it as a 4-chord song, but it only does that fourth chord for like do 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 do, and I think that song iterates like twice. So basically that fourth chord, they only hit it for about like what, maybe like 2 combined seconds out of the entire song. I think it's safe to say that it's a 3-chord song. If you choose to think of it as a 4-chord song, though, I will allow that. I'll agree with you, but I will also agree that it's a 3-chord song because those are both basically correct. If you want to be ultra literal about it, you can say it's a 4-chord song. But if you want to be accurate about it, it's a 3-chord song. It's like, do you want to be accurate or do you want to be totally literal? That's your choice. So these bands like the Velvet Underground, if you listen to them, you might think they're not punk rock because it's like it don't really sound punk rock. It sounds kind of artsy and bohemian and moody, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Shiny, shiny boots of leather. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. That song's definitely moody. I think the content matter is about, supposedly it's about a dominatrix. If that's a particular type of prostitute that doesn't have sex with you, but instead orders you around like a little bitch. What makes them a prostitute? Well, I mean, look, I'm trying to be like respectful about it, okay? I could call a dominatrix a whore. Lots of people call prostitutes whores, okay? Some of you are probably offended that I even said the word. But I'm talking about a song here. I have to. Otherwise, you're not gonna know what I'm. What if you've never heard the song? It's called Venus and Furs. Okay. Tom Penny likes to skateboard to it. Apparently, that guy's so good at skateboarding. What a cool motherfucker. I'd like to hang out with that guy someday. He's not dead, is he? So then, that's one song. On the topic of dominatrixes, you could call them not a cowgirl, a call girl. You could call them like an escort. But the thing is, you're probably not going to take the dominatrix out on a date. You're probably going to go to her dungeon, which is like a basement filled with all kinds of crazy things that you'd probably see in that movie 50 Shades of Grey, if you know what that is. And what about it? Look, man. A dominatrix is a dominatrix, but if somebody doesn't know what a dominatrix is, you've kind of got to compare the dominatrix to something that the person might be familiar with. So any one of those words might get used. But, you know, none of them are accurate, because a dominatrix is a dominatrix is a dominatrix is a dominatrix. It's a very specific job. It's a very specific role. You know? They specialize they specialize in humiliation, abuse, sometimes torture. What do I mean by abuse? I mean like smacking you, you know, swatting you, hitting you, stomping on you, that kind of a thing. Causing pain, maybe pinching you. I don't think they're supposed to cut you. I don't think so. You might get seriously injured accidentally that way. And I don't think the dominatrix wants to get in trouble for anything like that. So they avoid sharp things, from what I understand. I've never actually hung out. Okay, I've known dominatrixes, but they were my friends. I didn't get services from them. They hung out with the band. Okay? So let's set that straight. I've never had any desire to be dominated. Sometimes I've had desire to be the dominator. Apparently that's a common role reversal in society. You know, the ultra powerful and the elite, people like judges, law enforcement, people, politicians, like here in America. I'm not gonna be as bold as go so far as to say that people like royalty might be into that kind of thing. Because, hey man, what would I know about that? There's no royalty over here. So I can't say one way or the other. But from what I've heard from the dominatrixes I know, personally, it's usually powerful people that have status in society that like to get that kind of thing. Doesn't make sense to me. You know, like, I suppose every couple, like in a serious relationship or whatever, you know, I suppose every couple might at some point get kinky. Okay? Like, that's pretty typical, right? So I suppose the one time I tried it, I was like not into it, man. So there you go. Candle wax is usually what couples fuck around with. But a real dominatrix You know what? You can go find out for yourself, okay? What I'm trying to tell you is that subject matter is hardcore, and that makes it punk rock. Do you get it? Even though the song might sound a little, uh, I don't even know what to call it. Like, what would you call music like that if you're trying to lump it into a genre? It's very moody. It's almost like, but it's artistic. It has that one part in the middle where he's all, "I am weak, I am weary," and it kind of almost feels uplifting for a moment, like it's almost happy, like it's almost like an uplifting like, but then it goes back into that moody ass, wah, wah, boom boom boom, like it's just very moody. It's almost like bohemian music. Like I might call it goth, but that didn't exist yet. So it is what it is. It's the Velvet Underground, right? And then there's other songs like I'm waiting for my man with $26 in my hand. What does he say? Like up to Lexington? Yeah. The first thing that you learn is that you've always got to wait. It's a song about waiting for your drug dealer. More specifically, it's a song about Lou Reed waiting for his drug dealer in New York City. Because I guess Lexington is a street in New York. I don't think I went to Lexington when I was there. There were a few pretty famous streets. When we were like driving through Times Square, like I guess CBGB's is right there from what I recall. I wasn't I mean, I tried to drive in New York and I was losing it. It was way too much pressure for me to like I was a pretty decent driver, I thought. Like a highway driver or maybe here in my hometown. Hell, I can even drive in LA. Like that's stressful, but I don't lose it. When I was in New York, this is what happened. I'm in Times Square area and somebody starts honking. Actually, that happened to me and Fred. Yeah, he was the one driving at the point when we were in Times Square. I think I got us into New York. I did like a long chunk of driving, like night driving, from what I recall, because we were coming from Philly and we just kind of went straight through to New York. Pretty sure that was the route. And, I got us to New York, but there was a point where it's kind of like when you go to Las Vegas, you're in the desert, and then all of a sudden you can see the buildings coming over the horizon, and then the next thing you know, you're in Vegas. There's a point where you're in the outskirts, and it's like there's casinos, but you're still basically in the desert, right? So, but then once you're on the strip, you're damn fucking well sure. You bet your ass you're in Vegas once you're on the strip. That's how that works. And it's the same in New York. I guess once you cross the bridge, you're in New York. And people are going to be honking at you, perhaps yelling at you, perhaps making gestures at you. And, yeah, once we crossed that bridge, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Somebody, you drive. I can't. Yeah. Like there was just too much pressure. I couldn't handle the pressure of all the people hating on me. It was really a bad experience. I mean, like, as soon as I got to like pull over, unbuckle my safety belt, get out from behind the wheel, and let somebody else drive, for fuck's sake, things got a lot better. I could just sit passenger side and pretty much chill the fuck out. And then I started to enjoy New York a little bit more. But at first I was losing it man. I couldn't handle that. People honking. I'm not used to that. I'm a good driver. Why would people honk at me? I guess the license plate said Arizona, and I guess I wasn't driving good, I guess. I suppose nobody can drive good in New York, 'cause, like, give me a break. There's too many people, right? And there's too many cars on the road all at once. Like, that's how that works out. Overpopulation. So the only way to deal with that is, hey, honk, honk, move it along. We got places to go. A schedule here. And it's like, I guess that's how you end up working that scenario. I wasn't comfortable with it. Okay, so what? Yeah, Lou Reed's in New York and he's copping dope, and that's the song. That's some punk rock content matter. You know? Is that a word? Content matter? That's not a word. I should have said like content, comma, matter. Or maybe something like content, or rather, you could say it's matter. Some punk rock matter or some punk rock content. Okay? Why is that? If your mind, if you can't wrap your head around it yet, you're obviously not a punk. I prefer to say punk rocker because I don't like being called a punk. And anybody that does like getting called a punk, well, I gotta wonder about them, if you know what I mean. Because I really don't think anybody's supposed to like being called that. Get it? Got it? Good. Now there's the thing with Iggy Pop and the Stooges. They actually sound punk rock. I'm a streetwalking cheetah with a heart full of napalm. I am the world's forgotten boy, the one who's searching to destroy. And like even let's somebody gotta save my soul. It's pretty good shit, man. What the fuck is a streetwalking cheetah anyways? Is he talking about the Cheetos mascot? Seriously, what in... There's a pretty good band called the Streetwalking Cheetahs too, by the way. Obviously they were affected by the song Search and Destroy by Iggy Pop and the Stooges. They also have a song called Raw Power. And there's also a band called Raw Power. They're from Italy. And Raw Power's totally punk rock, the song. And you bet your ass Raw Power from Italy is totally punk rock. So, I suppose... I'm sorry. When I first started talking about proto-punk, I mentioned Velvet Underground, Iggy and the Stooges, and the New York Dolls, right? I think I probably should have said the MC5. The Motor City 5, they call Detroit Motor City. Because that's where they build cars. Like, Fords, I think, and Chevrolets and Dodges. I think all that's supposed to get made in Detroit. I don't think my iMac's ever gonna boot. I'm gonna... Let's leave it alone. See, I thought it was... Sorry. Now you're wondering. I just thought it was running like a scan disk procedure. Maybe it was like doing an FSCK, excuse me. It stands for File System Checker. It's an abbreviation, that's all. I don't think it's doing that anymore. I think it's bound to be done. If it ever did a file system check to begin with. Just leave it alone, Jay. So yeah, you got your Motor City 5. They're famous for a song called Kick Out the Jams. Why do the punks like it? Why do punk rockers like Kick Out the Jams? Well, it's because it starts out with, "Let's kick out the jams, motherfuckers!" And there weren't a whole lot of bands that started out a song by saying the MF word. So that right there makes it pretty punk rock. Like, the song probably could have, like, sucked. And people still would have liked it just because it started out with the MF word. You know? That's some punk rock stuff right there. But not only did they start out like that, using vulgarity, they also started to kick out the jam. It had a backbeat that went like bam, 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 which, you know, it wasn't like speed metal or anything, but it was more up tempo than your average rock song, which got people maybe dancing, or maybe just like, you know, jumping up and down, or who knows. I never got to go to an MC5 show, but from what I understand, they're pretty energy packed. That band knows how to generate the energy in the crowd. Okay? So those are the 3 proto-punk bands. Proto-punk rock bands. I think the New York Dolls, though they were early in the whole punk rock, like, the germination of it all, I think that's a good way to say it. Maybe just a way of saying that, yeah, when punk rock started, the New York Dolls had already been at it for a minute or two. Okay? That works as well. That describes that. Okay? So, those 3 bands are the proto-punk rock bands. It's agreed. Sometimes people will add to that list. They'll say things like, well, in my humble opinion, or they'll say things, yeah, but what about this? You know? It's kind of like Freddie, that guy that I was telling you was driving. He took over the wheel in New York for me when I was losing it. Too much pressure. Yeah, he was always trying to convince me of things like that the Who. You know that Who? No, the Who. That band from like they're British. They're from England. They have people like Pete Townshend and what was the name of their drummer? He was a really crazy guy. He was like always knocking over Keith Moon. Always knocking over the drum set and stuff. Yeah. So Fred was always trying to tell me that the Who was like the ultimate punk rock band because they were punk rock before, you know, the Velvet Underground, MC5, and Iggy even existed. And, you know, sometimes people agree, sometimes they take it with a grain of salt. You know, because some punk rockers will argue the Who isn't punk rock, they're just another fucking arena band. That's not punk. That's not punk rock at all. Being a world famous arena band, that ain't shit. Of course, another punk rocker at that moment might say something like, oh, so are you trying to say that Green Day isn't punk rock because they blew up and got huge and traveled the world and played arenas? Is that what you are trying to say? Is that why the Who isn't punk rock because they're like Green Day? So I guess Green Day's not punk rock now, right? And then that punk rocker will say, well, I didn't say that, but... And then some other punk will walk up and go, you both got your heads up your arses. Green Day was never punk rock, The Who was never punk rock, and you two are not punk rock. Conflict is the only good punk rock band to ever exist. So you see, there's a lot of opinions. You just kind of got to go along with it and like make your own. and or agree with the most like well-known opinions. There's no one there's one no authoritative source. Like I'm a nerd, in case you didn't know, and I kind of like to read, and I kind of like to use books. A lot of times people will say, when they go to the authority, they're usually referring to a book, right? A published book that's maybe been published several times over now. Because like the first run of a book is usually worth a lot of money if it gets famous, because there's usually not too many that are published. It's kind of like vinyl records that way. Like the first pressing of a vinyl record is usually highly collectible and sought after, because it's usually only a few hundred, right? So that's an authority for you. Okay. Yeah, if it's a book that's been published and you can buy it anywhere on planet Earth, even in my little desert town, that's a pretty famous book, right? So I'm going to try to know that book, and I'm going to probably agree with most of the things in it, just because, you know, where else are you going to get your information? Who do you trust? At any rate, when we say the word proto, it obviously refers to a precursor. You have something, and then you have what they call post something, which means like the thing that came after the thing. Whenever you hear about people talking about postmodernism or whatever, I guess modernism was a trend, and postmodernism is the trend that happened after the trend. Post-punk rock is the punk rock that came after the initial wave of punk rock. I think a lot of people know what we mean when we say post, but perhaps not as many people know the term proto. Okay? Because it's not modern, it's not current. Proto music, if you're going to get into it, you got to do your history. And who really wants to do that? Most modern music listeners are going to be listening to the newest trend in order to be a part of it. It's a social life thing. It's like if you go out to a show and a certain kind of music is playing, oh, it's great. I had a great time. Where's the next show? How do I get into this scene? And it's not like there's going to be a proto-punk revivalist movement. I mean, there's nothing to stop such a thing from happening, but it's a hell of a lot more likely that you're just going to have your current trend, and your trend is probably going to be like post whatever. Because like if you got a good party scene in your town, and the party scene is based around a genre of music, there you go. Okay, but once that genre of music dies away, how do you keep the party scene going? By having a post blah 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 genre. And whatever that sounds like is what that sounds like. You get it? So naturally you don't know who Zot the Avenger is, because he's like proto-streaming. He's a proto-streamer. Like in that article that Alexis wrote for PC Gamer, basically the original streamer is another way of calling Zot the Avenger the proto-streamer. Can we all agree on that? Like, if you don't want to give Zot credit for being the original streamer, which you really should consider doing that, because Zot did all the things that you guys do. And I know this because I stream. JJ streams, and he knows what it feels like and what he has to do. And it's basically the TV studio, except it's being done over the internet. I know that a lot of people like to get hung up over the chat room aspect of it all, because so much can happen in the chat room. You've got your bits, you've got your subscriptions that you can throw around, you've got your emoticons to convey your feelings. You know, I remember at TwitchCon last year, I captured a snippet of local news, and this San Diego local news piece it featured an interview, a brief little encounter with a con goer, and this con goer, I believe, had an Australian accent, and she was indicating that she was so happy to be at TwitchCon because she had made very good friends, very fast friends, I suppose. She probably logged a lot of hours. How fast is that? You know what I mean? Like, if you do a bunch of consecutive hours back to back to back to back to back to back to back, you know, it's no longer a fast friend, is it? It's basically a person that you've put in time with. And she's indicating that she's made like a new family. And she finally got to meet them at TwitchCon. So that's like the level of importance that the chat room plays to you twitchy motherfuckers. I know. And I think it's really cool. I'm jealous of you. I wish I could be a better chatter. Good for you, bad for me. Whatever, man. You know, the past several streams that I've done, I haven't even really participated in the chat room, you know? So, you can be a streamer, and you can neglect the chat room. It doesn't have to be anything. Granted, my analytics are at an all-time low. I don't think that's because of the chat room thing, though. I don't think people are there to chat with me, you know? I mean, sometimes, if somebody's got a question, I try to notice an answer, like a polite and courteous host would, okay? But the thing is, if I miss your question or I don't acknowledge you, it's nothing personal. It's just I'm like busy and I'm not paying attention to the chat room. I'm trying to pay attention to the video game, and I'm trying to pay attention to keeping the video and the audio up and running. And to throw a fourth thing in there, the chat room to pay attention to, it gets a little overwhelming. You know, most of you streamers are a lot more casual about the whole thing. I think that antihistamine, that hydroxyzine, I think it hit me kind of hard. I was kind of wiped out there for a second. I think that you Twitch streamers, you know, that get popular and have a lot of friends and always have smiles on your faces, and, you know, I think a lot of times you guys have one particular game that you're into. I noticed that at TwitchCon, a lot of people identified as being a Dead by Dawn gamer, or they identified as being a Minecraft player. Stuff like that. And naturally, if you stick to one particular game, well, that's going to strengthen your community, I guess. Because if you're all playing the same game, that's nice. You got that link. I can't see myself sticking with any one particular video game. I mean, sure, I will play until I beat the godforsaken thing, like I did with Cyberpunk 2077, but you'll notice I don't really do that anymore. But also, aside from having one particular game that your community plays, is you'll kind of be casual about it. Like, a lot of you guys got better video equipment than me. You know what I mean? when it comes to the audio video gear, if you can set it and forget it, that's what's best, right? That's what's convenient. Because if you just throw on your camera and your microphone and you're good to go, then you're not really paying attention to it anymore, are you? So it's not anything that's drawing you away from focusing on the chat. And also it's not drawing you away from the game. My video configuration falls apart all the time. Whether it's because of my slow internet signal. Yeah, it's slow. You know, I get a few megabytes. It varies. Okay? It totally varies. But compared to your internet, my internet is way slow. You want me to do a speed test right now? It's not plugged in. I can't. Let's just say my cell phone is 3 times faster. And if you're shrugging your shoulders, asking yourself, well, why do you keep your home internet? Because I'm not the only one that uses it. You know, we have to have home internet here. Therefore, we got the cheap one. And that's it. Why don't you get better home internet? Because I can't afford it! Don't even get me going on money. Alright, rich kid, just slow your roll. I was trying to maintain my cool. See, sometimes I can just imagine what you're thinking because I'm an empathetic person. And sometimes I just ask myself, gee, JJ, if I didn't know you and I had just heard what came out of your mouth, what would I be thinking right now? So a lot of times I'm guessing what you might be thinking. And I'm guessing a lot of times it might be a question. So a lot of times you'll hear me use a second voice. You know, like, gee, JJ, what's a blah, blah, blah? You know? And then I'll answer it like as if somebody really asked that question. And it's just because I like to think I know what you might be wondering. I could be wrong. I don't really know. They don't do analytics on that. If I'm guessing right on what you might be thinking. If you got a question, and if I just guessed what it is and answered it, that's pretty cool. I'm either very empathetic or telepathic. Right? But yeah, I'm totally jealous of all of you. You know, I've never been much of an online multiplayer gamer. And I know. Wait for it. Why not, JJ? Multiplayer online games are awesome! Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm kinda awkward. I always have been. So a nice campaign, a one-player campaign, that's pretty much always been my realm. If you can believe that. So there's a lot of people I'm jealous of. Because they look like they're having more fun than me. But at the same time, I'm not that jealous. Because like I say, I don't, if I don't enjoy something and I don't do it, well then, like, what's to be jealous of, right? It's pretty much more like, oh, look at them weirdos, right? Those online multiplayer gamers, aren't they weird, right? Instead of saying, God, I wish I could multiplayer better, man, they look like they're having so much fun. You know? That's like the piss pants, bad attitude. Be jealous. But I don't want to be that way. That's not my natural state. My natural state is I'm awesome. Why would I ever be jealous of anyone else? I don't even know what jealousy feels like. That's my natural state. At some point, I started suffering in my life. Probably started 20 years ago. And, like, I think there was a day, I don't know what day it was in particular, but there was this one day I was having a really bad day, suffering too much. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't take the heat. Had to get out of the kitchen. I couldn't get out of the kitchen. The kitchen was sitting on top of me. Let's put it that way. Okay? How do you get out of the kitchen when it's sitting on your chest? Okay? So I'm like, it's just too much suffering, and I got jealous of somebody that wasn't suffering. It was a weird day. I can't remember what it was about, but you know, I can tell you a lot of times these days, if I find myself in that state where I'm envious, I'm jealous, I wish I had what they have, or perhaps I wish I had their parents, you know, something like that. I wish I had somebody to spoil my little ass. Because I never want to be anybody else but me. I've put a lot of time into becoming this guy, JJ Styles, owner and proprietor of Bright Idea Records and producer of video games and more. I've had to put in twice as much work as the average person because of my learning disabilities and my physical disabilities. You know, when you do your homework, you probably finish it real quick, right? Yeah, I never do. Never have. So yeah, I've put in a lot of time to be me, and I never find myself saying things like, oh, if I could be that person for a day. It's more like, if I could have that person's money for a day. And that may sound really arrogant. You might misinterpret that as arrogant. But no. Being arrogant is when you assume that you're like the number one, supreme one, and that you're like the only one. That everybody else is either a neophyte compared to you, or that they just don't even have a clue, that they don't know. I was explaining that in a video that I uploaded the other day, or was it yesterday? I was saying, oh yeah, I did that thing to that one person because they were arrogant and assumed that they were the only person that really knew Unix, the operating system, which got used a lot more before Linux got super popular. I really like Linux too. I can't blame you guys for making it so popular. I used to be more of a BSD, FreeBSD. That was my go-to. That was my thing, man. The FreeBSD and the ports packaging system where you compile everything from source code. That shit was dope. I'll admit, sometimes slow. Because compiling anything from source can sometimes take a minute, and compiling your entire software collection and operating system and kernel and doing everything from source code, yeah, it can get daunting. And then when it's time to update your code, you know what? Back when I was using FreeBSD like a main system, like a desktop, everyday primary system, software wasn't getting updated as much back then. These days, software gets updated constantly. You know, usually when I type in apt update or apt get update, you know what? I normally have 200 packages to install. These days. That's a gargantuan amount of new software to always have to be installing. And I love it. It's great. It's like a dream come true. It's like I'm living in a Disneyland of software. It's pretty great. Back when I was into Linux, you were lucky if you could get drivers that ran your hardware. You were lucky if your distribution had a decent package management system. You know? Like Gentoo uses Portage, which is a lot like FreeBSD and the other BSDs like Net and Open. But the thing about that is Gentoo is still around. I don't think it was ever that popular. It was more popular when it was new, but people were still more inclined to go with something like Red Hat. Okay? What about Red Hat? Hey man, that's I guess CentOS is what you guys use now. It's like the enterprise grade version of like Red Hat. There was like a Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and then CentOS was developed separately from Red Hat and their whole operation, but it was based off of Red Hat, just like Ubuntu is based off of Debian. And Debian Linux is named after Debbie and Ian. They love each other. I hope they're not dead. I don't even know anymore who's dead and alive. Yeah, this computer shit's pretty stupid. I think I love it about as much as I love music. If you can believe that. It's like when Steve Jobs died. It's like, who do I think? What is this? Kurt Cobain bullshit? You know, it didn't hurt when Kurt died because first I didn't know him, and secondly, I hadn't had many people die on me. I was a little kid, and I'd only been to like one funeral, and it wasn't even. I didn't get to know my Aunt Clara that well. It was a terrible affair. I felt like I shouldn't have been at that funeral because I was totally like not. I'm like, who are we mourning? I didn't get to know the lady. Everybody knew her really well that was there. You know, I don't know shit about Debbie and Ian. I really don't. But I know plenty about Debian. You know that arrogant Unix instructor that I was talking about on that other video? That was not Harry McGregor. He taught the Debian class at my community college, and that guy was really cool. In fact, he was so cool. There were, the last time I went to a 2600 meeting here in town, there were plenty of people there singing the praises of Harry McGregor because he's that kind of an instructor. He's there for you, and he knows what he's doing. He's like a total, he's a total Unix wizard. He's a total, he's a total teacher. He teaches. He's not just an instructor, he's a teacher. And he's not just a Unix Linux user, he's a goddamn Debian wizard. So there you go. And yeah, just like Ubuntu's based off Debian, CentOS is based off of Red Hat. And like I was saying a second ago, when I started with Linux, you were lucky if you had a decent package management system. I've never considered RPMs to be decent. I hate RPMs. I convert them to Debian packages and use them that way. If I have to. When do you ever have to? I don't know if there's some commercial software that you're using, that some specialized shit that's only available for Red Hat. That's when. You know, some of us do pay for our software sometimes. Depends on what kind of operations we got going on. I don't know, should I be embarrassed? I I don't think so. But I don't know anymore. When I grew up, if a man would have like done what I just, even if a boy would have done what I just did, you know, that would have been really weird, and that would have been like out of place, out of sorts, and it would have you probably wouldn't even have any guy friends anymore. Every dude in school would probably avoid you like the plague. Oh, it's Crybaby. Let's get out of here. I don't give a fuck. I got plenty of reasons to cry. And if I stop and think about them, I will. It's a good thing I didn't it's a good thing I didn't like. If I would have said, is Linus Torvalds dead, we might still be crying. I read his autobiography. That was back in the first iteration of the 2600 groups. Because I've been through 3. The first iteration was back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And I pretty much started that one. I mean, I was like the 4th member of that group. Alright? So, but a lot more joined after me. So, and at those first few meetings that we had out in front of Barnes and Noble, you know, like, let's just say we had many. It went for about a year where it was just us 4. Actually, you know, it was more like just us 3. Because, the phone, what did that kid call himself? Hey, is this thing on? I said I wasn't gonna do this. The kid's name's Phone Preacher, and we all called him Preach! Yo, Preach! Alright, back to this. I remembered. His name is Robert Paulson, JJ. Yeah, I know. You're gonna make me cry. I'd have to look at a 2600 magazine just to know. He called himself like Freak, but it was something like there was one other part of that handle, I think, and he was basically a kid. I think he was a little bit younger than me. You know, I was about 18 at the time. I'd bring my fiance, you know, people loved her. She was kind of like a party girl, you know, always joking around, trying to be the center of attention. So, like, back then at those 2600 meetings, when there was only like 3 of us, or maybe only 2, or, you know, like, Souls was always there. Wolf, Jeff was sometimes there. You know, John and Jeff were sometimes, like, they were roommates from what I understand, so I didn't really, or no, John lived with his mom, and Wolf was, you know, and yeah, the Freak the guy that really started the meeting, he was only there just like once or twice, and I guess he just kind of like, he's like a mama bird. He like laid his eggs hatched, and he flew away, right? And we were the eggs left to carry on. Yeah. Um. Son of a bitch. No, I've been through 4 iterations of 2600 because that was the first one, and the one that I'm thinking of, the one where I read Linus Torvalds' autobiography, that was the second iteration. That was the one that had Lurakis, who wrote a 2600 article on cable modems. And I think he also submitted one on IPCOP firewalls. I think that was published, right? Because I guess he used IPCOP at work, got really familiar, and wrote a document about it. Probably had a collection of notes at work that he combined into one healthy document. And then there was Solfae, who had 2 articles published, one on DVD copying, and I think you know what kind of DVDs I'm talking about, the encrypted kind, the DVD CSS. And then he published a second article on C language network programming, and that was based off of a lot of the information and code. It was basically completely based off of the what is it, an Addison Wesley book? You know the one I'm thinking of. It's that hardcover one. I think it's just called C network programming. It's kind of like a definitive authority. It's like everybody's first book on network programming. It's almost like a Kernighan and Ritchie book. You know what I mean? It's not quite that old. It's not quite that early in the game, but it's basically that important. That C network programming, and Solfae gave me his copy because he's a really cool guy. He went on to become a truck driver. Anyways, like a big truck. So look, that's just some backstory. But then the third iteration was over at Black Rock Brewery, and that's when we went up to Cactus Con and got second place in the CTF. Yeah. Yeah. And then the 4th iteration, we meet at Barnes & Noble now. Except I think they moved it to a coffee shop that I haven't been to yet. I don't know. I've been real messed up. My medication situation, it's all not dependable. It's all fucked up. I'm all chemically imbalanced. The thing that I relied on to get me through the day for 15 years. Is this thing on? Is this thing on? God damn it. I said I wasn't gonna do this. Fucking A. Going to hell in a handbasket. Did I say this? Sorry I took so long. Hey, where to go? It's supposed to be on the screen. God damn it. Oh, was that me? Was I on the screen? Hey, it was this book. Not Ritchie and Kernighan, but Stevens and Rudolph. He gave me this book too because he's a really cool guy. And I also got the Firewall book, but I bought that one at the store because I had a job at Sassy Dicks. Alright. I'm not gonna do this again. I just wanted you to know. Somebody get me off the screen! I haven't had any in a long time. I mentioned on the stream the other day that TwitchCon was when I ran out of fentanyl patches. I barely had enough to last through the whole con. If you can believe that, oh, you better believe that. My cousin will tell you all about it. She saw me take my last little bit. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get a fentanyl patch ever again. Because right now, in the United States of America, they say that we're having an opioid epidemic, like as if it's a disease, and that, something has to be done. Yeah, well, it's not worth the trouble of getting it. Like, I don't even know if I could, because they make it so difficult. But even if I could get it, it's not worth the trouble. Those 15 years were exhausting. And you know what? I only had to go to one appointment a month. You're probably thinking I'm exaggerating, right? Dude, that one day was enough. That's 12 in a year. So 12 days, that's almost like 2 weeks, man. That's a lot. Let's see you do it. It's no fun. It's basically horrible. I'm not doing it again. So I'm a mess. Trying to survive without fentanyl patches. Why did I become so dependent on them? Oh, it must be because they're so addictive, right? Well, yes, they are addictive, but that's not why I became dependent on them. Come on now. What do you think drug addicts are? Do you think that they're people that just like drugs and they end up addicted to whatever they end up addicted to because that's the one they like? That's not how it works. I hate the shit. Do you realize this is too much information, but I'm going to tell you anyways, just because it's the truth. And you best damn well believe that opiates are not my favorite fucking medication. Alright, so here's the truth. The truth is, right in here, I've got some rock hard poops waiting to come out. I think I need to fart now just by pressing there. It feels like stabbing knives sometimes. This morning it totally did. And I had to do something about it because I thought it always feels like you're gonna die when you get the stabbing knives in your intestines. So I had to quickly run for the chewable gummy Duco lax and had. Why did I have two? Because I've tried just one and I always end up in worse shape. Just imagine the stabby pains. Yeah, even more intense. It's like, look, I don't want stabby pains. I want the whole thing out of me. Get it? That's just one little side effect. One of many. And if you think that's bad, I should tell you about the time I had to go to the emergency room. Yeah, this is definitely too much information. At any rate. Then you've got like, didn't I nod off in front of the camera earlier? You know, that, yeah, you could attribute that to the fucking hydroxyzine, but that's nothing more than an antihistamine. Like, if I wasn't on pain pills, you know what, that wouldn't have put me to sleep. Gee, where do you get your pain pills? None of your fucking business, that's where. I got this one doctor, you see. Alright, we'll leave it at that. Why don't you just clean up, JJ? Don't ask me that. You're gonna make me very angry. I already feel like a nobody. Please show me the respect of not having to go through it again. And just go Google it. I'll give you a hint. Google the band Zero Tolerance Task Force from Tucson, Arizona. They are also known as ZTTF. And tell me what you find out, okay? And then ask me about the fucking opioids. I swear to God, man. I'm trying to be an internet celebrity here. And usually I feel like a nobody. People don't want to acknowledge that I'm the original proto streamer. You know, they don't know who my bands are. Shit. The only good fans I got are basically Frank Howley's. Like, and you know what? I'm grateful. I'll borrow his fans anytime. I wish I could support his stream better by being there all the time. And being on the Discord chat. You know, Discord, the chat game thing. You know? It's more than just a game server. But, like, a lot of open source collaboration occurs on there, I guess. You know, I used to use Slack.com in the 2600 group. That was kind of fun for collaborations because you could log into the Slack room, which I guess matters most, is more popular now. And the thing is, if nobody was there, you could still type in a message, maybe attach a file, drop a link, whatever the heck you're doing in there. If you leave your message in the chat room, it's still like a chat room and whatever. But, like, it was going to get read eventually. It's like the chat room was always on